Hi, it's Jamie. I've never made a Facebook video before, so I'm feeling a little self-conscious, and it's early in the morning, so I have early morning appearance. But I wanted to record this while the inspiration was strong inside me. Like everyone else, there's so much that's coming through me around inspired and provoked by the election. And there's this recurring question of what do we do now? What do we do now? What do we do now? Usually aimed at the level of action, civic action, protests, phone calls, and whatnot. But given my work, I'm equally, if not more, interested in the level of action on the individual level and sort of what we can look at within ourselves in order to contribute to the greater whole. I found myself engaged in a Facebook debate this morning on a friend's thread with someone who was basically saying, we should give Trump a chance and all sorts of other things. And, I usually don't comment on political things on Facebook, but I feel like it's really important to now. I feel like it's really important to speak up. I absolutely believe that when you see, you see things happening that don't feel right and you're silent, it's absolutely a form of being complicit. And I think that even something as minor as participating in a Facebook debate or discussion and speaking your truth, I do feel that it's more than just, masturbation. I feel like, voice matters, intention matters, speaking up matters in any venue. So, I've been challenging myself to actually participate in these conversations, and there was a particular gentleman who was saying, a bunch of things that I didn't agree with, things that I found provocative. One of his arguments, for example, is that he sees video of women all the time who are willingly being grabbed by the pussy and enjoying it. I guess, the leap in logic being that, Trump's words weren't that big of a deal and it doesn't represent sexual assault and there's mixed messages and all that. And so what's great about a conversation like this for me is that I get to witness my own reaction to this. And, like so many people, when I'm reading something like this, I find myself, there goes my fist, I find myself getting angry. I find myself getting angry, and I took a step back just to kind of hold space for the bigger picture of what was going on. And I was looking at this guy, and I was like, I can see that he's deflecting everything that comes at him in a way that, from my point of view, he's not fully in reality, And I have this desire to engage with him. I think like a lot of us, because we all want to create positive change. And so how are we going to do that? We have to kind of get through, to people who aren't seeing things the same way as us and are saying things that we think are destructive in order to appeal to them. But I also could see at the same time I wasn't going to get through to this guy. There was nothing I was going to say that was going to get through to this guy. Nothing I was going to say was going to get through to this guy. There was such a elaborate construction of defense mechanisms. He was not going to hear what I was going to say, and we weren't going to see eye to eye, at least not in this venue. And so when I really own that reality for myself, that I see someone saying destructive things, and I have this desire to engage in some sort of constructive dialogue, and I know that it's not going to happen. And I'm sitting there with this anger. And then it falls on me to really go back in and say, well, so what's this anger about? And as soon as I do that, I get clear that this is about my feeling of powerlessness. I feel powerless in the face of this guy. And even just saying that, I can feel it. It's like I feel such a deep powerlessness here, that there is someone out there who is disconnected from something and absolutely, at least sort of in this moment in time on a conscious level, is absolutely committed to the way that he is seeing things. And there is nothing that I can do about it. And when I feel that powerlessness, my knee-jerk response is to get reactive and angry. Why do I get reactive and angry when I feel powerless? Because it brings me back to a time in youth, in childhood, where I felt powerless a lot. And in those experiences of powerlessness, I got humiliated, I got shamed, I got violated. The specifics don't matter. You know, we all have our stories. But there was a very consistent feeling of powerlessness in my history and in my past where I got taken advantage of. And so now when that feeling of powerlessness comes up, I just want to, I want to do something. I want to get defensive. I want to get reactive. I want to change it. I want to control it. And so my job at this point is I've recognized what the hook is here. And it's my responsibility to go into my own feeling of powerlessness. That thing that my reactive, defensive anger protects against. I don't want to feel the powerlessness. I don't want to feel the places where I got hurt. I don't want to feel the places where I have grief. I don't want to have the places where I have real rage, not like reactive, defensive anger towards a stranger on Facebook, but the rage that's mine. I don't want to feel these things, but it is my responsibility to feel these things because that is what's getting hooked by people who disagree with me politically. This is important, and I can already hear the voices, but wait a second, if someone's, justifying or minimizing sexual assault, that's not okay, and, don't be talking about this inner child bullshit when, there are neo-Nazis out there doing X, Y, and Z. Yes, there are things happening out there that aren't okay, and none of this is to glaze over that. In fact, it's the opposite. Because here's the reality. There's always going to be stuff out there that's not okay. There's always going to be stuff out there that's not okay. There's always going to be stuff out there that's not okay. If Trump somehow gets dethroned and someone else steps into office who many of us like more, there's still going to be stuff out there that's not okay. Political level, cultural level, individual level. There's still going to be people who come at you with distorted energy that doesn't feel good. We cannot control what is out there, but we can navigate our own response to it in our own participation with a larger energy that keeps things in motion. If I want this guy to take self-responsibility for whatever's going on inside him, that he can't make the connection that grabbing a woman by the pussy is not okay and there's no excuse to be made for that, if I want him to step into that self-responsibility, I have to step into my self-responsibility of what's going on in me that I want to disconnect from. So that way, if I can go to my therapist or my healer or my shaman or my medicinal brew or whatever it is I use to connect with my powerlessness and feel it all the way, it is not going to have the same hold on me eventually. So that when I'm faced with someone who won't feel something, and it brings me to that sense of powerlessness, I'm not going to be in reactivity. And I'm not going to be pushing him away. And that makes a difference. It makes a difference on an individual micro level, and it makes a difference on a transpersonal macro level. Now, I'm not suggesting that if I'm no longer reactive, that I'm going to win someone over on Facebook. I don't think you're ever going to win anyone over on Facebook. This isn't about fast-track immediate results of, if I feel my own powerlessness, then I can go out in the world and I can change people's minds. That's not what this is about. This is about we are all individual parts of a larger hologram. And one of the most effective ways you can change a larger hologram is by taking responsibility for your part. And so the opportunity here with this election, when you get hooked, or when I get hooked, or when any of us get hooked or triggered, is to understand that trigger is something within you. And if we want other people to get connected to what's really going on with themselves so they can stop acting out of defensive reactivity where their blinders are on, we have to do the same thing, because otherwise then we're just pointing fingers, and that is what has caused this whole clusterfuck in the first place. And by the way, that is why, on a certain level, it is absolutely right and appropriate that we are where we are, because I do feel like it is a call on a very large level for all of us to look within. So anyways, that's my video. It's long. If you've listened to this whole thing, thank you. If I pissed you off, let me know. If this helped, let me know. If you have any questions about what I've said, let me know. Thanks. Bye.